Hi guys, it's Mike from PoconoTherapy.com. I'm going to try a different medium of communication today. The blog Pocono Therapy was established in 2001. Mostly it's writings, essays have been posted, informative essays, along with numerous links. As well as videos from brighter minds than mine. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get the writings up. There's a lot of information I want to put out, but time has been a constraint recently, so I'm going to try this vlogging method and see if that helps me disseminate the information without. I work a lot of hours, so time is of the essence. The blog was originally established back in 2001 for current clients and previous clients so that they could come on the blog and review a lot of the concepts that were discussed in the meetings. So I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'm kind of an introverted Aquarian. I'm up here all the time, and I'm not really into any kind of unneeded attention. But for clients and past clients, I think this will be good. Hopefully, my ugly mug will not detract from the absorption of the information. Let me timestamp this. It is the 8th of January, the 8th day of the year 2017. And that year looks to be a doozy. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. So I decided to do the video blogging. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to upload this to YouTube and then transfer it over to the Pocono Therapy site, and we'll see how it works. If it works well, we'll go with it. I recently told a friend, and she's going through a really difficult cancer treatment, which she will have to engage in a recovery process after. I mentioned to her that I'm going to put my talking head up here on the tubes of the internet. And her response was, well, good, I'm going to need a laugh. But that's okay, because I realize that humor, laughter, is a crucial component of any recovery process. So if I can provide a chuckle during her process, I'm honored to provide that service. I have to apologize in advance. The lighting here, this is my house, my chalet in the enchanted forest. I have to apologize for the lighting, and I have to apologize for this. I'm using an old Samsung smartphone. It's an antique. Probably one of the first ever made. I'm not sure. Might even be a collectible. I should look on eBay. Nevertheless, funny story about this phone, which is a segue to the topic. I remember when I first upgraded. It was a sad day. I was saddened that day because I had to surrender my Star Trek flip phone, which I had come to bond with over many years. And however, once I got that sleek, new, cold technology in my hands, I got all giddy with excitement. So that day I played games and made calls. Unfortunately, I ran into a problem in terms of my inability to receive phone calls, incoming calls. I couldn't take them. I'm like tapping away on this phone, and I couldn't get the calls. So here I feel gypped because they told me this was a smartphone, but somehow a stupid one got through to me. So next day I marched into Verizon and with my indignant customer face, and made clear my complaint that I can't answer this phone. The kind elderly woman behind the counter, she basically said, okay, let's work it out. I'll ring you up. Ring you up? Who says that? I say that. She's speaking my language. So she proceeded to do just that. She rang me up. Verizon came up on the phone, and I'm tapping away, and I'm like, you see, I can't answer this phone. Suddenly, she graciously intervenes and explains, oh, no. It's not a tap. It's a slide. Oh? Hello? Ah. Imagine my chagrin. But I'm utilizing that story as a segue into the topic for this very first video installment on PoconoTherapy.com. Recovery. It's not a tap, it's a slide. But first, you will tap around in the dark many times, for quite some time, seeking relief, seeking answers. But eventually, your recovery will become a way of being, a lifestyle, and you will slide into it. So I am utilizing an outline for this presentation because there's so much in here. Over the past 30 years, I've worked in the human services field and the past 17 as a licensed psychotherapist, clinical social worker. I've seen hundreds, thousands of people. And one thing I realize on reflection is that I'm a salesman. I'm selling a product to everybody I meet. And that product is recovery. Package of ideas, concepts, theories, techniques, strategies, skills, new research. Now, not only am I trying to get you to buy into recovery through my own knowledge of recovery, but I have experience of recovery. I bought into it, and it's helped me very much. I utilized the recovery model in my youth for a severe drug addiction. 30 years successful at that. Also diagnosed with depression in my youth. Many years, 30 years successful at that as well. So currently I'm also in another recovery. This one more intense than ever before. Other than the drug addiction and the depression, there have been other recoveries. Bad relationships, you recover from that. Loss of a loved one, there's a recovery. It's called the grief process. Stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Look it up. Google that. A little background. I'm originally from Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs. However, even though raised as a city suburbanite, I've always had an affinity, a love of nature. Except squirrels. I hate squirrels. They've infested my attic. They're up there reproducing as we speak, I'm sure of it. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Alas, I digress. So, about 22, 23 years ago, I decided to pack up stakes. Is that the term? Close up shop? And move out here to the beautiful, picturesque Pocono Mountain region of northeastern Pennsylvania. and then proceeded to experience many, many years of peace and tranquility in the enchanted forest. Unfortunately, there was a price to pay for all that peace and tranquility. In 2010, I was bit by a dirty, rotten tick. The tick got away, but it left its calling card. Calling card, look that up. Historical fact for you history buffs. That calling card consisted of the most incredibly outrageous spectrum of symptoms I have ever experienced. I'll give you an example. Imagine the worst flu you've ever encountered, and add some symptoms that you can just imagine. They may not exist, but you get them. Now multiply that by 100 and experience it pretty much every day for over 2 years. Now, I don't want to get into autoimmune disorders because it tends to be complicated. It's basically the immune system attacking good cells in the body. That's an oversimplification. We'll talk more about that some other time. However, so I'm in recovery, and this recovery has been about 7 years. Now, we have what's called the stages of recovery. Before I became a licensed psychotherapist, clinical social worker, I worked in the addictions fields as a certified addictions counselor. In that, and basically from the addictions field, the whole recovery model evolved and is applicable across the board to most conditions, almost all conditions that one needs to recover and heal, because that's what recovery is. It's a healing process. So basically for the addiction model, it's early stage, middle stage, late stage, and maintenance. But there's another model that I like to use. It's called the Stages of Change. It was developed by a psychologist by the name of Prochaska. I think the book was put out in 2008. It's pretty much well cited and used for the recovery model in terms of application skills. It starts off with the pre-contemplation phase. That's where pre-contemplation means pre-thinking. I'm not even thinking about it. My life is crumbling around me, but I'm not even considering. I'm blaming a lot of other people and other situations, but I'm not taking responsibility or accountability for what's going on. The second is the contemplation phase, where I'm thinking about it. I'm suddenly realizing I was in denial. There are problems that I have to take charge of. Third stage is the preparation, where you work out a recovery plan, which is often what I do with clients that I see. And then finally we have the action stage, where you implement the plan, and then we have the maintenance phase. Currently, after 7 years, the past 2 years I've been in a maintenance phase with the Lyme disease. But there was some other conditions that came out of the Lyme disease due to constant stress response being turned on and off daily because my body's in stress, and that comes in the form of adrenal fatigue. The previous post that I put up a couple weeks ago prior to this deals with some basic aspects of adrenal fatigue. Now, I did engage in the medical establishment. I did embark on that odyssey. Unfortunately, that was a trail of tears. Because the AMA, American Medical Association, tends to have protocols that doctors do not, cannot, will not, and must not break from. Unfortunately, that required me to go out and do copious amounts of research to find treatment protocols that work for Lyme disease, which I did, and which I follow, and which have been extremely helpful. And I'm very thankful to all the people. I'm on dozens and dozens of forums and Facebook, Lyme disease, and I'm very thankful to the people that have helped me. And other things that I find, I pass on to them. every week I receive emails about Lyme disease and various other things. So stages of recovery are important, but what we want to focus on is what I focus on, and what I try to encourage folks that I work with is what we call the biopsychosocial holistic approach to recovery. That means your entire life is analyzed, put under a microscope, and we look at what needs to be changed, what stress needs to be reduced, what things need to be eliminated or added. Okay, and that's in the preparation stage of recovery. So we'll get a little bit more into detail of that. Who should be in a structured recovery program, and why? Well, obviously, chemical and behavioral addictions. Believe it or not, folks, I'm gonna save this for another post, but this porn addiction is getting crazy. I'm seeing young people come in 18, 19, 20 years old with porn-induced erectile dysfunction. This requires a recovery. But also in terms of chemical and behavioral addictions, which, like I said, the recovery model rose from, it's just not about abstaining or not using or not engaging that behavior. There probably are a lot of underlying reasons why you engaged in that behavior in the first place. And if that's not dealt with, then we have a series of relapses. Second reason, autoimmune disorders. Lyme disease, personal friend of mine. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, lupus, MS, various forms of arthritis. The list of autoimmune disorders grows every year. And that's endemic or symbolic of a lot of deeper issues. Chronic pain. One of the issues in recovery, particularly from autoimmune disorders, but also it can be from chemical and behavioral addictions. If you find yourself in adrenal fatigue because your body's been under stress with the chemicals for so many years, you experience inflammation. The body becomes inflamed. If you have chronic pain and isolated inflammation due to back pain, spine pain, hip pain, joint pain, knee pain, and the rest of your body is experiencing inflammation, then you're going to have aggravation to those isolated, localized pains. Trauma, classic PTSD, complex developmental PTSD. The basic viewpoint or perspective, if I just don't think about it, what happened to me, it'll go away. Oh, no. The senses collect the data, the brain processes it. And if you're experiencing trauma, if you have experienced trauma, that drops down to the subconscious and you become triggered. I have clients that don't even know why they're triggered. Don't even know what the triggers are, what the internal cues are. So trauma will require recovery. Mental illness. I do not like that term, but for lack of a better term, depression, anxiety, bipolar, OCD, PTSD. This requires a recovery plan. And any intense emotional experience, death, loss of a loved one, breakup, divorce, loss of a job, there could be some stress, obviously, in those situations. Now, the components of recovery, if we look at the biopsychosocial holistic approach, obviously with addictions, we want to abstain from unhealthy, dysfunctional, maladaptive behaviors. That helps with relapse prevention. Number 2, identify and eliminate stressors. This helps manage the hormonal system, the adrenal fatigue, cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline. If that's out of whack, you're going to be under a lot of stress. And if you're under a lot of stress for a long period of time, sometimes that adrenal functioning, will be so out of whack that you'll have panic attacks for no reason. Now there are 2 types of panic attacks. There's the automatic and there's the adaptive. The fear, hypothetical fear you think yourself into, and then bodily respond, physically respond. And then when the adrenal function is off, it just happens. There is no prompting. There is no reason. Then we have to look at diet, food, chemical consumption, alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, processed foods. For the Lyme disease, wheat, grains, sugar. Can't touch it. I can't eat what you folks eat. Well, yeah, there was Christmas. I mean, you can't refuse Mama's apple pie. Hi, Ma. Paid for that for 2 days, but that's okay. I knew I would. Supplementation. Vitamins, minerals, herbs, adaptogens. Helps the adrenals. Google that. Medications. Save that for another video. Have a love-hate relationship with medications. I have people coming in. I see people who are on 4 and 5 or more different medications. Psychiatric. Still having full-blown panic attacks and depression. Even into suicidal ideation. Wait a minute. That shouldn't be. Exercise. Okay, yeah, within your limitations. I remember the first 2 years of the dealing with the Lyme disease and trying to get things in check. I have a gym membership, so I felt like I should at least go in the place. I'm paying for it. So once or twice a week, I would go in for an hour, move things around. I pick up the 10 pounds. Okay, I'll put it over here. Pick up the 5 pounds. Okay, that's enough. I go get on the stationary bike. Okay, we're done. I did an hour though, and I felt good. Dopamine rises. Motivational chemical, you need that. Completing tasks, motivation. Dopamine. So yeah, within limitations. Currently, I'm in maintenance, so when I go in the gym, I'm doing high-intensity interval training. So yeah, it depends on where you're at in the recovery process as to what you do. Do not overdo it, because overdoing exercise creates stress, and then you get more symptoms. H2O, water. Your body's in stress. You need to hydrate. Most people don't realize they're in varying stages of dehydration throughout the day. Water. Drink a lot of it. I put down probably a gallon. And if you're on medications, you absolutely must put down water. And be careful of alcohol. Be careful of particularly caffeine and nicotine. They bind with water and pull it out of you. Meditation. Relaxation, stress reduction, breathing exercises. I have a whole basic curriculum of breathing exercises that I extend to clients. It's similar because it's kind of like you're in a state of stress, but you're doing meditation. So the brain's like, well, wait a minute, we're in stress. Why are you relaxing? Yeah. Education. Know your condition. Know your symptoms. Know the treatment protocols. Try the treatment protocols. Educate yourself. Information. That's what this blog is all about, just information. I don't tell people what to do. I don't advise. I certainly don't prescribe. I don't prescribe supplementation. That's what I had to find out for myself, what works for me. You have to do the same. When I boot up this computer and open the browser, it takes about 10 minutes for the browser to open, because I have about 50 tabs of informational sites that I'm constantly at, looking for not only autoimmune disorders, depression, psychological conditions, but medical breakthroughs, neuroscience, cutting edge neuroscience these days. Okay, laughter, humor. You need humor. Also support. You need support. The whole recovery model came out of the addiction field, and basically the addiction field is the foundation is a fellowship of support. You need people who you trust, who support you. Fun, recreation, hobbies, interests, always within your limitations. Yes, some days you can't, but you need this. I utilize the 80-20 rule. 80-20 is 80% productive toward your recovery, 20% consumptive, such as entertainment. 80% of your day is spent in pursuing recovery activities. And notice, recovery, a aspect of recovery is simply being able to go to work and do your job. And that's part of the 80%. It's productive. 20% is Netflix, screens, watching TV. Entertainment's fine, but be careful. We don't want that to be the mainstay of the day. Also, purpose, meaning. You need purpose. You need meaning. At first, recovery is the purpose, but once you get into late stage, or the action phase and the maintenance phase, you want to be looking into other meanings, purposes to make life fulfilling for you. Be relentless. Don't quit. Stay at it. There was a study done not too long ago. I'm not sure who did the study, but I think I saw it on 60 Minutes or the BBC, in which numerous diets were studied to determine which diet was the most effective. And surprisingly, what they concluded was that all the diets were effective. The chief factor in success in weight loss was that the people that succeeded didn't quit. They kept at it. They didn't give up. This is a part of recovery. Don't quit. Stay at it. I also want to touch on some problems in recovery. Stress and boredom. Okay. The problem is when you can't do a lot, when you used to do a lot, you may find yourself bored. Stay active, because being in stress and boredom can lead to not only with addictions or relapses, but can lead to choosing unhealthy behaviors to fill that void. Cognitive decline. Thinking becomes difficult. Brain fog is a big issue. And in addictions is due to hypofrontality. Well, the research is pointing to that, and it does make sense because of what the brain has to focus on with recovery or in different conditions, such as autoimmune disorders and cancer and chronic pain. That takes up a lot of the brain's resources. So this frontal lobe, where we do all our thinking, tends to shrink, and that's called hypofrontality. But I'm only touching on that. You want to do the research on that. It's very speculative at the moment. You will experience episodes of utter abject hopelessness and periods of complete emptiness. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Don't stay there. Come out of the dark. And there are many ways to do that, which I put into the components of recovery. Isolation. There are going to be days the last thing you want to do is talk to someone. But it's the best thing you can do. Chronic worry, depressive rumination. There are studies that are showing that constant dwelling, rumination on negative subjects affects cortisol levels, which then can aggravate inflammation. Long periods of laziness, inactivity, we kind of touched on this, and then non-acceptance. You have to accept that this is your condition, this is your diagnosis, and now we have to develop a recovery plan. Remember, suffering equals pain plus resistance. In the beginning, I remember suffering for me was a lot of complaints about what I was going through, which is resistance. Once I accepted that this is the way it's going to be, okay, right now I'm in maintenance, things are fairly good, I could take a turn for the worst at any time. I'm going to have to accept that, and I'll have to deal with it. Okay, this was just a basic outline. I touched on a few components. A lot of these components I can go into depth more, particularly with examples of what I've done and what other people have done, but I want to keep this video, where are we at here? Getting a little, whoa, 30 minutes, we got to get out of here. Okay, I'm going to try to post this. There are links. Mary Ellen Copeland, PhD, the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. I have that linked up on my site. It's about, I think it's about 3 or 4 pages. Mine was 20 some pages, but I've been at this for 7 years now. So, again, informational purposes. Hope you got some information that you can take. I wanted to promote you to take the information and go out and do more research on your own. So we'll finish up now. Be strong and keep the faith.